Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, 211 episodes in, and we're February 6th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gavin Pickin, Senior Developer Auto Solutions, and I'm joined by Eric Peterson as well, another Senior Developer Auto Solutions. So welcome, Eric.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, Peter, I see you in the chat. If anyone else is there, please say hello, and we'll chit-chat as we go. But let's get into it. So thanks to our sponsors, first of all, Auto Solutions, the makers of ColdBox, CommandBox, ForgeBox, TestBox, and all your other favorite boxes out there. So a few ways to say thanks to Auto Solutions. CF Summit East was finally announced. Apparently we had our little workshop before the CF Summit East was announced, but that's one great way to support us is buy the workshop, join Luis Mahana, and we'll tell you more about it in a ColdBox workshop at CF Summit East. You can also buy tickets to come see us in DC for the Into the Box in May. So we'll tell you more about that soon as well. And of course, go ahead.
You can like and subscribe to these videos on YouTube or in your podcast player of choice. We also appreciate everybody that contributes on our open source repos, issues, pull requests, starring those repos. If you do leave us a review for this podcast, we will read it on the show. So let us know about that.
Yep, and then you can sign up for free or paid accounts for CFCast. We also have a Box Life store, which we'll share the link for as well, which has got some cool merch. If you want to see some special Audis ones that you won't get at the conferences, that's a great place to go. And then we also have some Audis books, so we have some free, some paid. Up on Gumroad, we have the ColdBox tips, and we also have on Amazon, if you want the paperback or the hardback copy, you can find that on the Cold Fusion in 100 plus minutes. That's available on Amazon, or you can go to modern-cfml.autisbooks.com and get an ebook or a paper copy if you want as well. So you can't do it without another group of people, though, right?
That is correct. We want to thank our skillful Patreon supporters. We currently have 45 people supporting us on Patreon. We will tell you more about how you can support at the end of this show and all the perks that come with it.
Yeah, for sure. Those numbers jumped up a lot. I'm not sure if it's just the start of the year and everyone's credit card numbers changed or what it was, but we got a good jump there. So very cool to have the supporters. So thank you guys. Okay, well, let's jump into news and announcements. And as I alluded to earlier, CF Summit East was announced just recently. So just this last week, I saw on LinkedIn, I guess they're avoiding X or Twitter for the normal reasons, but we found it. So Mark Takata posted it up there, and they're going to be on April 23rd and 24th. So it's a one-day conference on the 24th. They have the in-person certification on the 23rd. So only $99 for the certified training, and the conference is free, which is pretty cool. If you haven't been, and if you want to check out DC before Into the Box, that's probably a good place to go do it.
Speaking of Mark Takata, congratulations, Mark. He has been promoted. He is now the Senior Cold Fusion Technical Evangelist at Adobe. So congratulations. He's a great asset in our community. Glad to have him with us.
Yep, because we knew all the hard work he was doing was either going to get him in trouble or get him a promotion. So I'm glad it was a promotion. So that's good. Yeah, Mark definitely pushes it hard. And I saw another LinkedIn post as well. He was sponsoring the BizHub Tech meeting in Sacramento a couple of days ago. Apparently a lot of bigger people just got in there, and yeah, so again, LinkedIn seems to be where people are posting these days, so go there to check it out. Follow Mark and some of the other CFML developers in there.
I'm worried what my LinkedIn currently looks like. I might not have updated it since I started working for Ordis.
Probably not. I haven't updated mine in forever too. Every once in a while I go there, I'm like, oops. But yeah. Okay.
Well, later in DC in May, we have Into the Box, and we've announced the second set of speakers and sessions. We'll throw that link into the show note. You can check it out on the Order Solutions blog. but we keep showing you all of the great content that's coming in this amazing conference. So
Yep, there's a
make
couple
sure,
of special people in that list too. I think there's some guy called Eric Peterson and myself. So, yeah. So if you want to find out about our sessions, you can go check that out there. We'll tell you
yeah,
more soon. I'm
I'm
excited.
quite excited. One of mine is a new one on passkeys. If you've seen that
Ooh,
all around, I have a session about passkeys with CB security, so
that's very cool.
it
Yeah, I
should be a
have.
good one.
I've actually listened to a couple of podcasts about it lately and actually started implementing them. I didn't realize how they were built or why or whatever, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, so I guess I'll have to take your session and see if I can fill the gaps. But yeah, passkeys are pretty cool, very secure if you want to look at using them. Yeah, definitely neat. New releases and updates. So, the Cold Fusion Builder extension for VS Code got a new update just a week or so ago. So, um, basically, it's an update. It's got some dictionary support changes for new functions added in 2023 and some serialization XML stuff and a few bug fixes. So, not a huge update, but just something to get out there. So, if you're using VS Code and that extension, definitely go give that an update. Ooh, and this one here, see, hot off the press. I didn't even know about it.
So you remember last week, Gavin, how we went through, not last week, 2 weeks, we went through a huge swath of Ben posts,
The bin corner,
and
yep.
in it we talked about retrying HTTP requests. And you asked the question, you said, "Can Hyper do that?" And I said, "No."
Not yet.
Well, now it can. Um, so Hyper version 7.3, now you can retry failed requests. It has a default user agent, which it did not before. And there's also a little bit of improvements on the fake request counts and sequences. So
Oh, very cool.
fun fun fact, in testing the retried failed request, I used all the new fakes in Hyper, and
Oh.
it was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Satisfying. It worked very well. So yeah, that's Hyper version 7.3. I guess I couldn't leave it alone.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's the thing. Sometimes you see a blog post out there and it gives you inspiration to add to a module or even create a whole new module sometimes, and that's part of the fun. So very cool, and thanks Eric for doing the work on all the modules you look after, and there's a lot of them. So thank you for your hard work there. I know we'll talk about a few more before this session is out. Okay, so webinars, meetups, and workshops. I just had one that I saw. Again, if there's others that we're not aware of, let us know. We had an email from someone that we were missing some of their content, and we look in certain places. If we don't look there, we don't see it. So let us know if there's certain content you're seeing elsewhere that we're not seeing. We're trying to get them into the news. But the online CF meetup, Charlie's done 4 or 5, I think, in the last month or so, and the last one he did was January 25th. The many capabilities of CF package management in CFPM. So that was interesting because a lot of people are confused about that versus ForgeBox and stuff, and obviously it's very different, right, Eric?
It's true. And, I don't do much with CFPM. It seems to be more of a, when I start the server, I need to install certain extensions, or at least I look at them as extensions, kind of like Lucy's extensions.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's just, I don't know, it's built into our code, into our configuration for the project. Kind of a fire and forget thing for me.
Yeah, it's just a big thing when they modularized it. They went to, a very, very small core. I think instead of 1.5 gigs of the download, you can get a download of 220, and then you install the modules you want. And so the CFPM tool helps you with that if you want to do it from the command line versus in the admin. And so Charlie talks about that and all the other bits of it. And it's kind of cool that it does actually scan your code to see what packages you might need, which is neat. So you don't install ones you don't need and, open yourself up to vulnerability. So that session
Or
was recorded. Oops, sorry.
yeah, or just bloat, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe not vulnerability, but you're just adding, megabytes of downloads that you don't need, and in increasing the length and work of your pipelines and deploys and all that.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're doing Docker images, the space will add up. So
Yep.
Okay. Again, if you know of any other meetups coming up, let us know. We try to check in a few places, trying to keep our data up to date.
I know of one. I'm trying to find it. The Hawaii Cold Fusion user group is doing one on ColdBox with John Clausen
Oh,
sometime. I know
yeah. I know you.
that was great.
I know you did this the CF Hawaii as well. Did one just recently, didn't you?
John Barry. I did mine in December,
Okay, so we already covered that one.
and here it is. I don't see it on their website, but February 23rd at noon Hawaii time is supposed to be the intro to Cold Box by John Clausen.
Okay, well, I am putting it
I'll
in the notes, and then
I'll
yeah.
grab a link to the Slack, I guess, but like it's not on their website yet.
Yep. Make it easy for everyone to find it, guys. Maybe I need to add some more filters to LinkedIn if that's where they're posting it. I know that everyone's there these days, but anyway, we'll try and do better with that. But yeah. So back to conferences, so we can give you a little bit more detail now. I'm gonna pull up some of this so I can actually show you live on my screen. But the first one is Adobe Cold Fusion Online Summit 2024. And this one I never even heard about until just this morning. So we're waiting for CF Summit East, and I found this one. So apparently Adobe Cold Fusion Online Summit 2024 is coming in March. And so this link here, if we go look at the speakers, we'll see that there's some of the regulars from CF Summit. So Charlie's going to be there, and Raymond, and Monty Chan is there as well, Daniel Garcia, Dave Ferguson. So quite a few people in here. Not the full lineup, but there's still quite a lot of people in here doing their sessions. And so if you look at this agenda here, go through and check it out. So I think a lot of those repeats from basically the CF Summit. So they couldn't record online, and so this is their way to do that. And so they've asked people to present, and yeah, so it's pretty cool that they're doing that there. So it looks like it's maybe weekly. It's the agenda had different dates. So oh wow, there's quite a few. Like so, rolling
it
out.
looks like it's starting February 15th, and there's one or two every few days. So sounds like pin this website and keep an eye on the ones that you want to attend.
Yep, I've already got an email there waiting for me to do my session, maybe from CF Summit. So it's definitely a possibility. But it's cool that we're getting all those sessions recorded, because CF Summit was great last year, and it's good to get that content online so we can keep it. And then we have CF Summit East. You want to tell us about that? And I'll pull it up on my screen.
We mentioned this earlier, that it's now officially announced. So this is CF Summit East on April 24th. It is a free one-day conference. They are also doing their Adobe Certified Professional for Cold Fusion the day before, on the 23rd. That costs $99. This looks like it's in Reston, Virginia, right outside DC. So we will include the link to register in the show notes.
Yeah. It's always good when you get a free day and you get breakfast and lunch included, you know, if you're
That's true. Very nice. And after the Adobe CF Summit East, you can attend our ColdBox 7 workshop with Luis Mahano, the creator of ColdBox, the father of ColdBox. I know, I was trying to think of something clever. It didn't happen.
Yeah, the creator. But yep, if you look here, just cool thing is with this is it's a 2-day training. So a lot of times with our ColdBox trainings, we only get 1 day for various reasons. So the 2-day trainings are just a lot more in depth. You really get a lot more time to dive in. And CF Summit, we did a 2-day workshop, and it was really good working with everyone there. And I think they get a lot more out of the 2-day workshop. You still get a lot from the 1-day workshop, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely something we said about that. And there's so much cool stuff in ColdBox, and 7.2 even more. Luis has just added a lot to it lately. So it'd be a great way to get up to speed and all the goodness of 7 and 7.7.1 and 7.2. So it's crazy how much he's been changing in that. Some real big additions. So
Right. I got the name now, Gavin. He's the box father.
the box father.
I
Uh,
now we need it for Into the Box. We need a picture of Luis as the box father.
that will be pretty awesome. Yeah, I got some
So.
ideas. We'll have to. Yeah,
Speaking of Into the Box, that's coming ever closer. May 15th through 17th
yeah.
in Optica in Washington, D.C. We talked about more of the sessions being announced and all that. We also have hotel options to share.
Yes, we do. There's a blog post of that. We'll share the links for that as well. But also, the pre-conference workshops are up. So if you guys are looking at something for front-end reactive front-ends with CFML, got CBWire and Alpine JS with Grant. Bare metal to the cloud, migrating legacy applications to Amazon Web Services. And this is a great one if you wanted to, get moving with AWS. They'll go from basically from start to finish with that. It's really cool to get into the details of AWS. And then CodeBox 7 Unleashed. So a one-day version of that workshop if you want to do that with Luis. And we have some sessions. So we have some pretty good ones here. Some new people too. So if I go to speakers real quick, we'll see some of these names are new, but some of them are the ones we're used to every time. But it's really cool to have some of the new speakers out there. So I think we have a couple more that'll be added to the website soon, but it's just really cool to see some new speakers out here. And to be honest, there's a couple more will be added here very soon as well. But yeah, it's so hard to fit this content, right? We want to have enough time between the sessions for people to be able to talk and mingle and everything, but it's just so hard to get everything into 2 days. And it's really hard to say, let's not do 3 days, but I think we could fill out 3 or 4 days or even a week, really, with all the content we have. So hard decisions were made. I'll just leave it at that. So
If only we could all just take off a week from our normal day-to-day work to go to this conference.
yeah,
We wish everybody.
We always take off more time just to get the conference set up and organized too. So if you're there for 3 days, we're usually there for 5 or 6. So yeah, it's definitely a big thing. CF Camp. So another great conference. CF Camp is going to be back in Freising, Germany, in Munich. So June 13th to 14th, and the call for speakers open. So you got to make a return this year, Eric?
We will see. I mean, the call for speakers is open through March 17th, so I can put my name in the hat. So can you, Gavin?
And now I've actually saved some of my mileage points. It's all about time though. So we'll have to see. It's the day after my birthday, so I'm like, they time it really nicely for like a birthday getaway. But we will see.
Just be careful about taking the trains. You can ask Dan Card about that one day if you want.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be happy to tell us his nightmare stories.
So on CF Camp's call for speakers using pay-per call, they have a plethora of topics that you can talk about. Of course, CFML's there, but also front end and mobile and desktop development, databases, other storage and infrastructure, adjacent technology, cloud services, all of that. So go ahead and throw your hat in the ring. This is a great conference, and I'm excited to see who submits some topics to speak.
Yeah, it's funny to see Dot on there. I know that Angular Dot was pretty big for a while, but yeah, I mean, they definitely have a lot of different options here. It's nice they give you some ideas too. A lot of times you're not sure what type of content they're looking for. So Kai and is it Mikhail, who run the conference or the content committee? Misha, yeah. They do a good job. So thanks for all their hard work, and yeah, I'm sure it'll be another great one this year. And then we do have more conferences if you want. Comps.tech is basically a GitHub backed system. And so they allow you to submit your conferences, and you can go find a lot of different conferences there online, in person, for different languages and everything else. So it's kind of cool to see which ones are in the area for JavaScript and everything too. So comps.tech, and fill up your conference calendar. Okay, blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. We have quite a few here, so we'll probably roll through them pretty quickly. But first one we have is from David Rogers. So he's just talking about Lucy Debug. He's actually changed it up so the Lucy compiler is being used instead of the Lucy evaluator. So now all of the languages available in the watch and eval expressions and Lucy debug. So if you want, you can go check that out. Because Lucy debug is pretty
And
cool.
yeah, if you're wondering, sorry, what we're talking about, Lucy Debug is a project to do step debugging. Um, well, I use it through VS Code, but step debugging with Lucy works great. And I hadn't ran into this with the watch eval expressions, but it's awesome that now it's not even something I will run into. So great work, David, and can't wait to use that.
Yep. And then
Okay.
James Moberg did some talking about QB a little bit. You want to tell us why he thinks it's pretty cool?
Yeah, James was talking about the to-SQL method on a QB builder. And so that's basically, you can call that anytime in building up the query, and it will show you exactly what it would come out as if you were to execute it right then. Even above that, it can, by default, it will just show question marks for all the bindings, but you can ask it to show the query param struct that would go in, or even just inline the bindings if you wanted to copy it and put it into your database software of choice. I would put out there that in addition to to-SQL, there's a handy dump method, which does this whole to-SQL thing, but sends it to write dump for you. You can pass in all the write dump arguments and this show bindings argument. So sometimes I use that multiple times in the query chain just to see if it's changing the way I think it should.
Yep. And so, yeah, there's a lot of cool things. I like the way that you just added all that debugging in because, yeah, QB makes query building way easier. None of that weird, crazy if statements in 5 different places. You build it as you need it. And like other languages doing this, like Sequelize for JavaScript and a bunch of other tools out there have query builders and they've had for a long time. So it's funny when you meet a front-end developer now and you mention SQL and they don't know what you're talking about because they all use query builders or ORMs.
Yeah, it's true. Or just APIs.
Yep. Okay. Oop. So we both posted the same one at the same time. But
Oh,
next up we have one from Gregory Alexander. And he's got a tags versus CF script in Cold Fusion and Lucy. And so just a sort of a nice run through of some of the differences there, advantages and disadvantages of both. Yeah.
the evergreen topic of tags versus script.
Yeah. I know it's funny though, whenever I listen to podcasts, everyone's talking about, doing like HTMX these days and stuff. It's like, you got to pick your templating, library on the back end. I'm like, okay, well, Cold Fusion just has tags for views and that's great. What do we need to get a whole thing like Pug
Yeah,
or anything else, which you can use obviously, but everyone has to like choose their templating language, and it's kind of nice that ours is just built in. And I think
absolutely.
most people will agree, like tags for views makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah,
as far as the models and other stuff, it's like script is leaner, more like JavaScript. That's why most people I think like it. But it also makes a difference when you're looking at it. You instantly know that you're in logic, you're in the business model stuff, you're not in a view. So it's just easily for my brain to say, oh, we're outputting stuff, we're in a view, tags. If you're elsewhere, it's logic. And that's where I sit there. But yep.
yeah. Next up, we have a post on the Or Solutions blog about the hotel options. We mentioned them earlier in our conference section, but you can step through and see we've reviewed a few different hotel options, and you can see which ones will work for you based on distance from the venue, price, and availability.
Very cool. Okay, well, I'm going to stop and show my screen for this one here. I'll paste this in real quick first. Beautiful picture of Ben and Brad. But so this one, comparing binary values in Cold Fusion. He's a database table and he's storing binary tokens, and basically he's looking to compare. So I always like Ben's because he has the walkthrough of all the different code pieces. And so he's decoding different things, different ways, and comparing them, which is interesting because, yeah, the binary decode, versus hex and UTF, he's looking at the case so that it's different casing and trying to see if it's true or false. I always get confused when we start getting into like Java arrays though, and the bytes and everything else. So I always like to be able to look at something like this for a comparison. But yeah,
Yeah, I think the big thing to take away is even if you've converted your strings to like base 64, you can't just do a double equals in Cold Fusion because that is case insensitive, and base 64 strings are case sensitive. So two options here: use hex or use the arrays themselves and use Java's arrays class to compare them. So
yeah, very cool. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. The whole when's insensitive, when's not in case sensitive is always bites you. That's for sure. Okay. Next up, we have an Audis newsletter. So we got that there on the blog if you want to get sort of all of our updates in one place. But we also have Charlie talking about his latest session, and it's going to be monitoring solutions for CF and Lucy. He's going to be speaking into the box, so it's always cool to have Charlie speaking at our conference. He's got a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, and the fact he helps people all the time is really great. He sort of shares lots of stories and knowledge from every person he works with, so it's always good to have him coming in. The monitoring solutions is what he basically spends his day working in to be able to help people find those problems. So,
and I'm excited for this one because I don't know, if you ask me about monitoring solutions, I'd say Fusion Reactor and I'd just move on. But I like learning about the new ones, learning about other entrants in there and what they're doing and neat features they have. So
yeah,
thank you, Charlie. We're excited for this.
yeah, and the other cool thing is too is a lot of those tools, like some JVM or just Java tools will actually help with your code. And if you're using Adobe CF, they have some monitoring tools as well. And so there's lots of cool stuff you have already at your disposal, and it's nice to be able to see them and see the differences. And then the next one, Ben looks at the performance of structs versus ordered structs in Cold Fusion, and so he works through that little experiment. And then the next blog post he's got talking about powering. Sorry.
Well, should we talk about the interesting finding about it, which was basically there wasn't that much difference?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was gonna look into it a little bit more if there was a change, but yeah, it's kind of funny that basically I think Sean said that we're not using real world scenario, and that's why it doesn't have the same effect. I think he said that on Twitter. But yeah, basically in his little test, there was not much of a difference, right? So,
And there was a couple different tests, one of creating the struct and reading it, and one about inserting into it. And neither of them had a huge difference, and it varied, of course, between Adobe CF and Lucy. So once again, whenever we're talking about performance, the key is to measure, because if you don't measure, then you just made a change for who knows what reason.
yeah, I know and that's the thing too. A lot of times we have a sort of a best practice memory of why you shouldn't do something, and then the engines update. There was like for a long time people said don't use, was it wasn't as defined. There was another function. There was a couple of functions that everyone used all the time, and then they told them basically don't use them, they're super slow. And then someone went back and tested them years later, and like they improved them to the point where under the covers they were like, oh, we'll just use the better function, and so it was the same speed. So it didn't really make much of a difference, but
Yep.
but yeah, but always good to test. I learned that one with working at Audis for sure. Okay, so the next one, you had powering email unsubscribe links using the signed URLs. I think we talked about the
Yeah.
other blog post from the previous week, and he was building on top of that one.
Yeah. So here he shows how you could use signed URLs in this case to do unsubscribe links. So that way somebody can't just go in and change the user ID in your unsubscribe link, because it's baked into the signature and only you can calculate the signature. So smart way to do it.
Yep,
And
there's a
yeah,
little video for you to look through as well. But yeah, definitely good. And I think we covered it last time, but yeah, that's sort of the whole thing with the JWT as well. Like you can tell if someone's changed it because it doesn't match up anymore.
yep.
So
Or AWS signatures when you're dealing with S3. There's a whole bunch of places that use signatures like this.
yep, it's neat because the contents make up the contribution portions of the key. So you change one, doesn't make sense anymore. So cool. you're hot on the links there, so I'll just keep reading. So yeah, Charlie posted his recordings for those January and December presentations we mentioned before. He's got quite a few that he's done, so good there. And Maho also posted the second rounds of session releases. So I might actually click on that one and just show it real quick because it has the latest versions for us. So we can have a quick look here. So you can see the new sessions. So Eric's CBQ, jobs and tasks in the background. We've got Charlie speaking about demonstrating monitoring solutions for CF and Lucy. And then Kurt Gratz is talking about taming the data sprawl, strategies for managing and controlling data proliferation. Well, I actually said that one right. Can't say my own name sometimes, but I got it right. And then I'm speaking about VS Code powered up for modern CFML development. And then on Friday, we have George Murphy talking about migrating your infrastructure to AWS Cloud. Luis and Esme is going to be talking about headless content for the win. And Eric Peterson with passkeys and CB security. That's super cool. And then Felicia is talking about web accessibility for all. So she's another new speaker. So software engineer at Keys Consulting. So again, a lot of cool stuff into the box. Okay, so next up, you want to talk about Ben's converting strings and to integers using hash code and CRC32.
Right. It's a very technical title. This happens to be because of his work on feature flags and his feature flag library he's making. One thing that you need in a feature flag library is the ability to take any arbitrary string and map it to a number 1 through 100 for percentage-based rollouts. So when you say, I want 50% of my users to get this, you have some identifier for that user and it needs to map to that number. And so he was using the CRC32 algorithm, which I'm slightly familiar with when I did the library for Unleash SDK, which is another feature flags library. And when he did that, he was turned on to maybe using hash or hash code for the same logic. And he goes through how he used those in here and how they did. And you can check out the details in his blog post.
Yep. Very cool. We'll leave some suspense at the end there. And then we did have a blog post about Charlie's CF package management presentation, which he's already presented. And so we shared the link already. And then there's a couple here from Igor, and I think the Adobe blog got him out of order, but basically dealing with deprecated tags. And so he's been doing some work migrating some older stuff to ColdFusion 2023. And so basically what he did was actually use like a custom tag to help recreate it. So CF menu, for example. So he basically created a custom tag for that and took the same inputs and then tried to do something with it. And he actually did the same thing for like a CF query with the SQL type of int versus integer. And so he's got a couple of blog posts there about using that, which is kind of a nice approach. With some things completely removed, it's kind of a good way to do that. Custom tags are very powerful, and if you're in Lucy, obviously you can build some of your own there as well. A lot more options for extensions in Lucy, but yep.
Yeah, I think as a ColdBox aficionado, I'd probably be reaching for like a custom view, to include in whenever I wanted a tag like that. So that'd be another way to handle it if you didn't want to go the custom tag route, is a view.
Yeah, for sure.
I also don't remember what CF menu did.
It was a little like basically a menu bar that had drop downs, I think. Sort of the old school 7, was it menu 7 stuff that you used to use? No, you're probably not old enough for that. Some JavaScript stuff that we used to do, but yeah, in the old days. But yep. And then we had a blog from Gregory Alexander about recursive ColdFusion functions, and so this is always interesting. I like the recursive stuff, one of those sort of more theoretical problem solving, and you can lose your mind sometimes, but in college we did a lot of stuff on that. But yeah, so he talks about recursive functions, and then scenarios of where it might be useful, and using ColdFusion and what you should really care about. And there are some good links at the top here to to find out more. Ben, for example, has some information on it. But yeah, so I've done a few of these in my time for sure. I'm sure in all your modules and libraries, you probably got some crazy stuff for this, but usually it comes down to category taxonomy, like he's got here for blogs and stuff, where you walk your way down menus and stuff. But we had to do them to like solve your way out of a map, like basically get through a maze in college. I think we had to use recursive functions to
Yeah, or if you're ever
search.
dealing with traversing tree like data structures, you're going to have something like this as well.
Yeah.
Um, Gregory goes into it in his blog post, but you have at least two logic branches. One is the state where you end recursing and you return a value, and the other is where you keep recursing. And if you don't have that state where you stop, that's where you're going to get a Stack Overflow somewhere.
Yep, that's for sure. Okay. And then we have one more here, and this was just something I think we might have covered, but I want to sort of remind everybody that Fusion Reactor wanted to let everyone know that on February 29th, yes, there's 29 days in February this year, if you're using the Fusion Reactor agent in cloud, they're basically no longer supporting versions 8 and 9 after February 29th. So make sure you get those updated so everything keeps working as you'd expect. So that wraps up our blog tweets and videos of the week.
Ooh.
Find a job. So it's only been a couple of weeks since our last show, so there actually was 0 postings on the Get CFML Jobs site, but there's still lots on there, over 117 from the last few months, so highly recommend checking that out. And then CFML Slack has jobs board, so does the Box Team Slack. And if you go look on CFML groups on LinkedIn and Facebook, a lot of people post stuff in there as well. So let us know if you have any jobs you'd like to list. But those are some ways you can go check those out. Okay, next up we have our ForgeBox module of the week, and the writer of the module is actually in the chat today. So David Levin has produced this little module, and it's called WebP. Do you know what WebP is?
I know it's a Google image format. I believe it's a bit more. I don't think it compresses the right word, but it's smaller at the same levels of fidelity. So
Yeah, so this module that he created is a ColdBox module that helps provide a simple API for converting images to WebP format, and it can be used to convert WebP images into other formats. So it does use those binaries, like you said, from Google. But yeah, so it's offering superior lossless and lossy compressions for images on the web. Google encourages it, part of their Core Web Vitals initiative. 25 to 35% smaller than the JPEG or PNG counterparts. So faster page loads and reduced bandwidth. So it's compatible with all major browsers. Lucy Image Extension now supports it, but Adobe Fusion does not. There's an open ticket, so if you guys can go vote for that, help get that supported in Adobe Fusion.
so now that support would be for using it with like all the image tags, right?
Yeah, like read image.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
because you can use this library to interact with all the images and your browser is going to display them. So you don't have to have support in Adobe Fusion to use WebP.
No, this module does that for you, and that's why
Right.
he's using it. That's why he built it. So, yeah. So, yep. And if we look down here, WebP can give a command path, the binaries, and then the property, the source and destination. So pretty simple methods here. I wonder what other info it has in there, but very cool. So yeah, that would be a very handy one for sure. I know that all these different image formats coming out are kind of annoying if you don't have support for them, but WebP is a good one if it's going to be that much smaller. I didn't know that. That's the only downside of using old programs that Adobe killed, like Fireworks. They don't have all the exports you can do for the two image formats. But cool. He's got a lot of good stuff in here. So very, very cool. So thank you, David, for that one. And we learned a little bit more about WebP today. So very cool. So did I actually put the link in? No, I didn't. Let me copy that in. So go check it out on ForgeBox, and yeah. bug David, and this looks like James was talking about saying there's a self-serve open source image server to auto serve WebP to browsers support it. That's cool. So he doesn't use them in CF or even host them. And that's saying a lot of people using CDNs.
Was
Cloud.
it
It's a Cloudinary.
Cloudinary? Yeah.
Yeah, Cloudinary allows you to do some pretty cool stuff. Upload the image, and then you can tell it, "Hey, I want this image in this format, this size," and it'll give it to you. So,
All right.
and auto scale stuff. But there's some
Sounds like
self.
James's is a self-serve Cloudinary.
Yeah. Which one was it, James? If you want to post the link to that again, I think you've told me before, but I've forgotten. And I've always wanted to get one of those servers up and running. Okay, so VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week. Now, this one is one that I saw, but does not currently have CFML support, but James Moberg is already on top of it and has a ticket for voting. And so it is the JSCPD, which I'd never heard of before, but apparently it's a cool little tool to help look for duplicated code. And so the extension is pretty simple. It runs in VS Code, but I'm opening up the repo for those watching here. So the JSCPD, it's a little binary, but basically helps you go look through over 150 programming languages and looks through all your code and finds duplicated blocks. And so it'll go through, and I think the VS Code one, does it have the pictures? Nope. But I did see some stuff online where people were talking about it, and pretty cool that it can basically find all your duplicated code. It's one of those things where you're not sure if you should refactor yet. This will tell you, yes, you probably should. It's 10, 15 places in your code. You should probably have a look at that. So, yeah. But I was really, really impressed with this, cool little tool. And yeah, hopefully you guys use it for JavaScript at least for now, but in over 149 languages, but hopefully we can get some votes and get Cold Fusion added as well. So I went already put my thumbs up on that one. So we'll share the link for that one as well, and that way you guys can go vote. But yeah, just another VS Code. And again, if you guys have some cool VS Code extensions that we haven't covered or haven't covered in a while, let us know. Same with ForgeBox modules. We try and look for new ones or special ones. But if you guys have got some recommendations, let us know. We'd love to add them to the list and share them with everybody else.
Yeah, we'd especially love that if it's one that you've written or maintained. We'd love to highlight our community members.
Yeah, for sure. I know David got a little kick out of talking about his one today, so very cool. Okay, last but not least, we have our Patreon supporters that we want to thank. So again, just for those who don't know, these are the individuals that are personally supporting our open source initiatives to ensure we get to keep building all these tools we build, like CommandBox and ForgeBox and CodeBox and ContentBox and TestBox, and all the other modules that Eric makes and everything else too. And also supports our cloud infrastructure that ForgeBox and our package management with CommandBox rely upon so heavily. And you can find out more at patreon.com/ordersolutions. And I'll go pull up the site, but Eric tells you about some of the perks.
That's right. You can subscribe either monthly or annually. You can save 10% by subscribing annually. Bronze packages and up, you're going to get a ForgeBox Pro and CFCast subscription as a perk. All of our Patreon supporters have a unique profile badge on our community website, as well as their own private forum access on that website, and access to a private channel on the Box Team Slack. You can visit our community at community.ordsolutions.com, and you can learn more about our Patreon at patreon.com/ordersolutions.
Yes, for sure. And we have a large number. Like we got 45, or might even be more than that, because some people in different countries can't use Patreon. So we're just going to cover the skillful top Patreons that we have, highlight some of the top Patreons. So I'll start off the list. So thank you, John Wilson from Synaptrix, Tomorrow's Guides, and Jordan Clark. And I think you read them all last time, so I'll do these ones. So thank you again to Gary Knight, Giancarlo Gomez, David Bellinger, Dan Card, James Moberg, and Jeffrey McGee from Sunstar Media, Dean Maunder, Kevin Wright, Doug Kane, Nolan Irk, and Abdul Rahim, and many, many more that are listed on our website. And we appreciate each and every one of you. So if you guys want to find out more, you can follow the link in the show notes. about that, or go to Auto Solutions. Sorry, patreon.com/autosolutions. Follow us there. And again, a lot of great things coming, conferences coming. So make sure you guys get your schedules to your boss. And if you need help writing the letter to say why it's worth coming, let us know. We can whip something up for you. But we'd love to see you at some of these conferences. And everybody have a great week.
We'll see ya.
Thanks, everybody. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernize.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.